This is Shawn Anen with the Community Connect podcast, bringing you some great information. Just want to interview some key local people here that are doing some great things within their industry, within their space. So today I am here with Andrew, aka AJ Schneider, with Farmers Insurance over at ghuther Insurance Agency in Pompton Lakes. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Shawn. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
You're welcome, man. You're welcome. So AJ and I actually go back for we go back a while, a few years, right? I think I might have contacted you probably years and years ago as far as selling your house, and I've known your wife, Christina, from high school, and kind of lost touch along the ways, and kind of reconnected a couple years back. So give us a little background story about how you and I actually first connected.
Sure. So before my wife and I got married, I owned a home in Waldwick, New Jersey. It's a great little home, great starter home, and things happened, life happened. We got married. Christina got pregnant, and then it was time to upgrade and get a bigger house. So through the grapevine, we actually were hired a realtor who, the first day I met her, I wasn't all that impressed with how she handled business. So we had a conversation about how much we were going to sell the house for. And basically, normally people think they're selling the house for a lot more than what the market is. This one was actually the reverse. She thought she could get a lot more for the house. And I actually wanted to make a bet with her, but that didn't happen. But anyway, long story short, she was way above the market. I said, you're selling the house for maybe 350, 360 tops. Months and months go by. We didn't sell the house, took it off the market for, during the, fall season. So then I believe that's when my wife reached out to you, Shawn, and said, hey, help us out. We got to get out of here. So based on our first discussion, I was like, this guy is great. He came to my house with a portfolio and all the comps, and don't forget the suit. The suit was important.
The suit was important, which I'm not wearing today. I'm not wearing today. I've kind of like redirected my intentions with the suit. So, but
I had to put the jacket on from all the white behind me. So
of course, do some contrast.
Yeah, there's no summer tan here. I just blend right in. So, basically, we together, and it was a partnership. Talking to you, Shawn, you said, "Hey, here's what the market's going to dictate: anywhere between the 350 to the 375." So we started at the high end, and we sold it, pretty much right in the middle. And we sold it. I think it was something like 49 days, or maybe even
pretty quick. It was definitely pretty quick.
It was pretty quick. Yep. It was quick for that house after sitting on the market for the year before for 6 months at an unattainable price. So and then on the buying side, you were even more helpful.
That was nuts, man. That was probably I tell that story to this day on how we got that house. That was crazy. That was that was interesting for sure.
Absolutely crazy. And I could actually go in, I'll try and keep it to like 30 seconds. But basically, we found the house. It was down the street from the brick house in Wyckoff, which is where I met my wife. And my wife's like, hey, your dreams have come true. The house is on the market. I used to hang out at the brick house a lot. Now it's like once a month. But we put in the bid. By the time we put in the bid that day, and I think they had 6 or 7 bids, I think, from what you told us. So a week or 2 weeks go by. Shawn and the realtor connect, and pretty much the realtor said, "Hey, Shawn, if your folks want the house, it's yours."
That was good. So there were 7 offers on the property, including ours. So 7 total. They accepted another offer, and somehow I don't even remember how the realtor connected with me. Like, he called me on another property, and he was like, "Hey, blah 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 blah," and I'm like, "Hey, I'm the guy that had the offer on this property, and keep me posted, my people, and I hyped you guys up, and you guys are awesome, by the way. You guys rock." So hyped you guys up, and he called me because I had such a great relationship with him from that one phone call on. We actually hit it off when that property was still under contract with the other people, but there were some issues. He came back to us, and we got first crack at it before it went back on the market. Back out into the open market for everybody else to take a look at. So that was
the conversation. I believe the conversation with you was like, "Hey, when are you doing best and final?" He's like, "We just did it," and you were like,
Right.
"What?
Yeah,
We did
it was all wrapped up.
yeah,
It was all wrapped up. It was definitely all wrapped up. So
uh, meant to be."
yeah, it was cool. It was good stuff.
Awesome.
Definitely good stuff. So the main reason why I wanted to bring you here is because I do a lot of deals. A lot of people do a lot of deals, and there's always like this question of like homeowners insurance. And like I know about homeowners insurance, but there's still like a confusing aspect of it. Like you ask me anything about the mortgage process, I can tell you from start to finish, and be like fairly accurate with what I'm going to tell you. Like I have confidence to be able to tell you like, hey, this is what's going to happen. This is what the fees are. This is what it is. You know, this is what the interest rate is, and this is how it works. Right? With insurance, again, there's so many moving parts that if something is looked over, it can cost you a lot of money one day down the road if you need to use it.
Right.
So, you know, that's why I wanted to bring you here today because I think, you know, I've been in this business 15 years. There's a lot of people in this business, in this space, that probably think the same thing. You know, so what I want to do is it's kind of maybe like a little selfish. Like I want to talk to you and kind of get an idea of how this whole thing works. You know, for me personally, but I think in the interim, we're going to be able to help so many other people understand, you know, the perspective on insurance and how everything works and the importance of having the right coverage, talking to the right people,
Sure.
and so forth. So, so I have a couple questions. I'm just going to ask you some questions. I'm more than confident that you're going to know every answer and be able to help us and our listeners and our viewers and anybody else who is, you know, going to watch this show now or 5 years down the road or whatever. So kind of like, I guess one of my biggest questions is like, who actually determines the coverage? Is it me when I go to buy a house? Is it, you know, the insurance guy? Is it the mortgage guy? Like what's going to dictate, what is actually, you know, what I actually have to get covered for the insurance?
Sure. That's actually a really good question because most people they just see a limit of for dwelling coverage on their insurance policy. And a lot of times people say, well, I bought the house for, let's make this up, $575,000 and the coverage is only for, $315,000. So when you're buying, obviously, this is in the real estate market, you're buying a house, you're buying the house and the land. Now, depending on where the property is located, if it's in a desirable neighborhood versus a less desirable neighborhood, that's going to dictate where, how much you're paying for the land. So when you're looking at your insurance policy, basically the insurance covers the building and the stuff inside the building and maybe some other structures. So let me give you an example. Actually, I pulled that 575 was an actual homeowners policy done recently in the town of Wyckoff. And the coverage limit, which is determined by farmers, was $317,000. So basically, as an agent, I'll go in and I'm going to say, the year was built, the square footage, how big, there's categories of ratings for the kitchen, the bedrooms, number of bathrooms, number of half bathrooms, garages, wood floors. I mean, we give a detailed description of the actual house, the structure. From there, farmers will do a calculation and they'll come up with that price. And it's as simple as that from the agency side. They have a back end calculator that they use that they'll determine price per square foot based on location, based on materials, right? So, for instance, a house in Wyckoff could be, $175 per square foot to, $250 a square foot, where maybe a house in Patterson is maybe $125 to $150 a square foot. And that's how they calculate the insurance on the back end there. So it's basically
just for people that don't know. So Wyckoff is like kind of like a more affluent town. Like we got some out of staters, and like Patterson's kind of like,
oh, that's right.
Patterson might be like, I don't want to say the hood, but kind of some of Patterson is the hood. Let's put it that way. So yeah, some like a sum of 50 plus 20%. But yeah, cool. Sorry, man. Keep going.
No problem. So that's the calculation in a nutshell. And then based off of that in your homeowner's policy, there's a couple of sections. There's coverage B, which is other structures. So if you have a shed or a detached garage and a tree falls on them, you'd be covered for that. There's personal property, which is the total amount of coverage of property inside the house. If there was a fire and you lost a table and a couch and a whatever, um, it would cover that stuff. Then there's other things which are fair rental value and additional living expenses, which basically are two different points. The important one actually is living expenses. If you're displaced, for instance, you have a huge fire or flood or both, um, and you have to move somewhere else, this coverage is actually going to pay for your rent to while you're outside of your home while it's being repaired. Obviously there's limitations to all of it.
Right. So is that included in every policy? Is that something that somebody has to like check the box off? Is that like additional coverage? Like
it depends on the insurance company. With farmers, yeah, we absolutely include that, and it depends on the agent. A lot of times, I've come across everyone when it comes to insurance, everyone wants to spend as little as possible and be covered, and be covered. Let's call it. Now, there's certain, obviously you get what you pay for most of the time in insurance, right? And
it's the same thing in real estate. Everybody wants to pay the lowest commission and they want, the best marketing. Like it's, hey, look, I'm going to spend all this money, but it's going to cost them money.
Exactly. So based on lifestyle and the number of children, where they're living, how much they travel, I'll look at all of that when it comes to, not only, the homeowners, but the auto policies as well. And umbrella policies, which is another topic I think we'll touch on. But basically, you want to make sure that you get a quality product. Spend a little bit more, and the little bit more may only be $100 a year when it comes to homeowners.
Right.
But you want to just make sure that someone's reviewing the total picture for you, because in the end, insurance, yeah, it's a cost, but it can also be kind of a wealth preservation, if you will, between liabilities and losses that occur from fires or.
And we're talking about homeowners insurance, because like you want to get a little bit of better health insurance. That $100 a year is more like $400 a month. But yeah,
right. Exactly.
So totally different world. But yeah, no, 100%. And a lot of people don't even understand. Like I have like you talk about content. Like you can get like wedding rings, insured, and you can get, you can like add like these little things to each policy, correct?
Yep, exactly. So the first thing I did, so here, let me get to a little story. A few years ago when I got into this business, I never looked at my insurance policy. I was at my old house for it was about 7 years. And I just, I had a friend do it, or he thought he was a friend. And once I got all my licenses, I said, you know what? Now I'm going to look at my own homeowners policy. So I did it. I wound up actually saving between the home, auto, and umbrella $1,500 a year. And
right.
I got way better coverage than what I had. I had lower limits across the board. So the $1,500 a year, just by looking at my insurance, I mean, when I'm talking to clients about coverages, it takes me 10 minutes to run up a quote, an accurate one. And basically, there's an insurance score based on homeowner claims and auto claims and so on and so forth. So it's just like your credit score, there's an insurance score for folks.
Gotcha.
Which some folks actually don't know. But it's a matter of due diligence on the agent's part, and then asking a couple of questions to get you the right coverage.
I'll tell you. So I'm on my third home that I actually live in.
Mm-hmm.
And for the first time in my life, I made an insurance claim after the snowstorm. And I had a tree fall on my fence collapsed in, I had trees down everywhere. And honestly, man, like I didn't want to do it. Like I did not want to do it. But there were so many unknowns, like with the fence, what it was going to cost. And
right.
I wound up doing it. And it wasn't a difficult process at all. I didn't know that there's like a score associated to it, because that would maybe sway my decision to be like, you know what, maybe I don't make a claim, or whatever. But a couple interesting things that you said that I just took some note here. I think one of the biggest things, because you said you renovated your house, right? So I mean, obviously, you did a bunch of stuff to it. You didn't put any additions on though, correct?
Did not put any additions. Just did
So for the person that's renovating their house, let's say they go put this like crazy kitchen addition, up the back of their house, or they do like a family room off the side of their house or something like that. Do they have to then go in and reevaluate or reassess their insurance policy, because now they're they have more square feet, so that cost per square feet goes up or down, or whatever,
Sure.
however that works.
Actually, there's two things you want to be concerned with on this. One, if you're doing an addition to a house,
Yep.
and obviously it's something by permit you need a permit for. The smart thing to do, and what most people don't notice, most people don't do this, is they inform the insurance company, hey, I'm doing some renovation. It's a small rider that's attached during that period. Because
Hmm.
if, for example, my wall's down and I don't know, there's an electrical fire and it burns half my house down, and the insurance company never knew that, you actually would not be covered. There's something called exclusions. Yeah, which most people don't know. It's an important
Really?
thing. I had a neighbor around the block just do a major addition. I said, hey, did you notify the insurance company? He said, no. So you might want to do that.
I,
So,
I would have never even thought to do, like, I would think like, hey, make sure I'm insured, make sure the contractor's insured, but I would never been like, hey, I'm gonna call my insurance company because I'm doing my kitchen.
right.
Next thing you know, they're blowing some electrical outlet and there's a fire.
Yeah. So some of that's important. And actually,
That's a nugget. That is definitely a nugget that I'm sure will probably save some people money. Does that cost you money to do that?
it doesn't cost much. They actually, depending on what you're doing, if it's a kitchen, it may not be anything. But if you're knocking down walls with a major addition, they may just
Right.
do an additional rider, or they call it an endorsement, and it's a couple of bucks. And then after that, they'll reevaluate the house, because again, you want to make sure that the materials you're putting into the house are going to be covered. So if you're covered for $300,000, maybe you add an extra 1,000 square feet, so maybe added another 100,000 to the structural cost of the house. Maybe not the real estate cost of the house.
Mhm.
You want to make sure that you're adjusting appropriately and upward in that case.
I would go as far as to say that the majority of people don't do that. You would think like, hey, you want to protect yourself, protect the money you just put into your house and all that stuff. But I would kind of go on a limb and say, you know what, I would bet that 50% of the people that put additions on their house and do all that stuff to increase square footage, increase value, don't let their insurance company know.
Yeah, I actually don't know the statistic on that, but I'm sure 50% is probably a fair number, and it depends to the extent that you're renovating. If you're adding a whole second floor, that's going to change the value of the house dramatically. Uh, in
Right.
which case, in which case, if you did have a fire and you're only covered up to X percent, of what your total cost of the house would be. One thing that Farmers does, we put actually a multiplier for replacement costs on a house. So for me, for that example there, it was $315,000 for the house
Hmm.
and coverage for the dwelling. But I put a 50% multiplier, so I'm covered for another hundred and whatever, 80,000 dollars, $167,000, whatever it was, on top of that 317.
Huh. Okay.
So that's good to know. And you could actually do a guaranteed replacement cost
Hmm.
with Farmers. So, for instance, if the house is 300 and maybe I put marble and all this crazy stuff inside the house, may not need to tell the insurance company about it. But if I know my policy, I have guaranteed replacement cost. They'll get me similar or like quality at current prices. So you're guaranteed to get what you put,
So,
what you have before.
so like if somebody was to go and like, let's say put like a movie theater or something in the house, right?
Right.
And they put like this crazy, like elaborate movie theater and they have all this expensive like sound equipment and all this other stuff. That stuff would be covered, like direct one to one.
Yeah, yeah. Direct one-to-one on the cost. So obviously we'll have to prove the price of the
The
equipment,
value. Right.
and let's just say it was 3 years ago. Well, that model doesn't exist. Well, we'll get you that similar model with today's prices.
Equivalent. Right.
Yep. In a
Cool.
situation. Yep.
Good stuff, man. So just a couple other questions I wanna jump into here before we run out of time. This is all good stuff, by the way. And again, I'm sure we could probably talk about this stuff for like ever and ever.
Listen, and I tell you what, there's so many instances where I mean, like I said, I'm only in this couple of years. There's things that I don't even know yet, and the main thing is you do your work for the client, like you do. That we call it that hustle.
Right. Absolutely. And
And,
you're doing a tremendous job for being in this for such a short time. And that's what intrigues me with it. I've been in the real estate business for 15 years and there's still things I don't know. Like every deal is different every time, every time an issue comes up and I'm like, just when I think I've seen it all, the biggest thing in especially being in the service industry, like you have to always be learning. It's like I've been in this business 15 years. Every time I see something new, I'm constantly looking to learn and figure out new things and like figure out different scenarios. Like, and you're the same way. Even in your management position prior to this, like you were in a position where you needed to do that. Like that was part of the job.
Right.
Now
right.
you don't have somebody telling you to continue to learn, but that's just who you are. It's who I am. It's like how we operate.
It's the best way to take care of your clients.
Absolutely, 100%. And so one of the things I wanted to ask, I know when we were talking beforehand, you were mentioning something about something that Farmers does, some kind of like declining deductible or something like that, or
yes.
decreasing deductible, or
Yeah, it's a declining deductible. So if you set your homeowner's deductible, I'm just going to make this up, at $1,000. For every year you don't have a claim, they'll lower your deductible by $50 a year. I forget what the minimum is because Farmers, has a lot of programs. That's pretty much the gist of it. So it's great for every year you don't have a claim. God forbid, if I had a claim 5 years from now, my deductible would be lowered by $250 from that 1,000.
Gotcha. And so, quick question. I know you said like, okay, so your company's Farmers, and that was one of the things that always kind of confused me with the insurance industry, because like you have an agency, you have the underwriter, you have the small agencies that work with different underwriters, and those underwriters or those insurance companies only work with the brokers. So with Farmers, like I know, like if I go to Allstate, I'm only getting an Allstate product. If I go to Farmers, do I only get access to Farmers products? Like how does that work?
So yeah, Farmers for homeowners and auto is their first and foremost company, right? Farmers, that's our parent company. But they have a company, Zurich, which is a worldwide company, who has smaller arms of insurance companies. So we have access to those insurance companies as well. So for auto, if for some reason you're not qualified on Farmers paper, we can go to Bristol West, who's let's say they attract different risks. And if you don't qualify for Farmers because of a number of things relative to insurance for your home, we can go to Foremost, which is another company under Zurich. So we have a bunch of different options as Farmers agents to get obviously the best coverage and the most affordable deal for our clients.
So it's almost like the best of both worlds. Like you're getting that national brand, the Farmers, or but yet you still have access to these smaller companies that might be able to have a little bit of a better rate or a different product if something doesn't fit your needs.
Exactly. Yep.
Gotcha. That's cool. That's definitely good stuff. Let's see.
And when you're a Farmers client, where you're looking up, for the next question, obviously the more you package, the better discounts you get.
Right.
So, for example, I recently did a homeowner's quote. I think it was like $1,300 for the year. I said, hey, let me look at your auto. And then at the total package, home and auto, I think it wound up saving them like $1,000 a year. They had, good credit rating, no claims and no moving violations and, all that stuff. So
what do you think, if somebody wants to go over their options, like what are their next steps, like to talk to you? Like, do you say like, hey, let me look over your policy, or let's talk, or like what's the it's kind of like a two-part question. Number one, what would be somebody's next step to initiate?
Sure.
And question number two is, where can we find you?
One, I got a phone number. It's on 24/7. I also have a website that I've created for myself as more or less hey, I'm sorry, I'm in the middle of a meeting, but if you're looking for a quote, or go to mynjinsurance.com. That's basically a quick form. It'll ask a couple of questions. It goes directly to my phone and my email, and I could start working the quote up from there.
And that's www.mynjinsurance.com, right?
Yep, exactly.
And so what I'm going to do is I'll post the link below as well. When I go to publish the podcast and video here.
No, nice. I appreciate that, and I'll share it on my Facebook page. But yeah, that's one way. The other way is get a copy of the insurance policy declaration pages. Normally, it's the first 4 or 5 pages, which will spell out coverages, have all the information I need, for the most part, insured name, so on and so forth. And then it takes me about 10-15 minutes to run a quote. and I'll be happy to do so because one thing that I'll do with any homeowner's policy, or even let's just say home auto umbrella, is check the coverages first. There's a few things that could happen when I'm talking to a client. One, I'm going to find a major hole or major gap in their insurance policy just through asking the right questions. You brought up jewelry before. Hey, you married? Yeah. Is your ring insured? I don't know. Okay, well, that's an endorsement. We're going to have to add that. Two, we're going to save you money. Or three, we're going to do both of those things. You're going to get better coverage and save you money. So that's typically what I try to do every interaction. There's been a number of clients where I'm like, hey, what you got is good, and let's leave it there. And rates change constantly in the insurance industry depending on what insurance company you're with. I said, hey, next renewal or next year we'll try it out, and we'll get you another quote.
Got it. Cool. Anything else that we did not? And there's a million other questions I want to ask you. Like, actually, you know what? Before we go, what about flood insurance? Does that have anything to do with you guys? You deal with anything with flood insurance? Do you get quotes or?
So flood insurance actually is an additional license that I actually haven't gotten yet because I haven't done a lot of coastal work yet.
Yes, anyway. Right, yeah.
Exactly. Glenn, the owner of the agency, he has flood insurance licenses.
Glenn's a great guy, by the way, too. Glenn's a great guy.
Oh, so. Glenn's awesome. When Glenn and I sat down, he said, "Hey, man, you'd be great in my industry," and we're like, insurance, but it's actually kind of a dry topic that I could bring a lot of color to, and that's what we're looking to do. But yeah, flood insurance is a different animal. It's on top of your homeowners, so it's a separate policy. So and there's a government agency that handles that.
So if somebody wanted to go like all one-stop shop, come to you and do the insurance, you would be able to get it done.
Yep, absolutely. Our agency handles everything soup to nuts, A to Z.
Yeah.
When it comes to this stuff, sure.
Got it. Thanks for being on, man. I definitely appreciate it. I've learned something. Again, it's always be learning, for me. So I'm learning about the insurance. Again, I look at this stuff as like selfish, like I want to learn this stuff, but I'm gonna give it out to the world. My selfishness has turned into like this abundance to just give it to everybody, which is great. So
it's great. Thanks, Shawn. Thanks a lot for having me. I really appreciate it. To all the podcast listeners out there, Shawn is the man. He's top notch, and I love working with him, and look forward to working with him in the future.
Cool, man.
On the next house.
Good stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a link to AJ's contact information below in the podcast. I'm going to have it in the YouTube. You can watch on YouTube as well. It's going to be in the YouTube description. Also, AJ's phone number. I'm going to have your NJ, mynjinsurance.com. You have all your contact information there if anybody wants to get in touch with you.
No, appreciate it, Shawn. Thanks.
So again, AJ, thank you, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you guys got some value out of this, and I will see you soon. Peace out.